Yeah, like I got, I bought most of the stuff last year, and I thankfully upgraded the RAM and did that before RAM prices went just completely hog wild, which is a whole other thing.
So fucking mad.
Which is also going to be why I probably don't end up buying a Steam machine, because they'll have to raise the cost of that to some ridiculous degree to like cover that at this point.
Fucking right.
Yeah.
Which is such a bummer.
Yeah.
But I took a QNAP server, which is one of like the main brands besides like Synergy or whatever, but not like the highest end one, but it's got like 4 bays for regular hard drives. So then if you want to do it the right way where you don't have to worry about one drive failing, then you get to buy 4 drives and set them up in a RAID where they can rebuild if one dies. But then that gets pretty expensive because you're buying 4 identical, whatever, in my case, 12 terabyte drives.
Yep. I believe there are 8 in this one that's being constructed.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's sick. That's a nice rig there.
Everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games. And I guess lately, I think we were all talking before we jumped on here, we've all been not having quite as much time to get some gaming in. Yeah. But nonetheless, we're all, still getting a little gaming in here and there. And yeah, without, I guess we can just get rolling here without further ado. Why don't I kick it over to you here, John, to get things started off for kind of an update on a game that we talked about, I think, years and years ago.
First mentioned over 200 episodes ago on this podcast.
That's pretty good.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I've been coming back to No Man's Sky, which, as the game logs in game have told me that the last time I played it was 5 years ago. So the game itself has kind of changed significantly since then, where, at the beginning I was playing it on, I had gotten a laptop at the time that could run it, and, was running it on the lowest possible graphical settings, but they were still constantly adding new features at that point. And I think even still they're adding new stuff to it or patching and creating updates. There's different game modes now, but I've still primarily been playing the exact same save file that I created all those years ago because I didn't get that far into it. I had only put a few hours into it, but was mostly just, dicking around and figuring out, like, okay, what is this material that I can harvest from this mineral that's on this planet? And then once I've exhausted that and directly in front of me, I'll just zoom out to the next planet and find another mineral or another plant or something. And, it satisfied my love of going to a place and scanning an object and having it fill out a logbook for me. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
The core gameplay loop that is all I care about.
Back of the box stuff right there, yeah.
Yeah. So I started off just doing that again, and they had added, at this point, who knows what was added and what I just either never encountered, didn't play long enough to encounter or whatever. But it seemed, at least compared to my memory, that the onboarding process is so much better, and that it does give you, here are some quests, here are some basic things for you to do that will kind of teach you the basic mechanics of the game. And I'm sure that I had done some of them. I had already built a base on a planet somehow, and had started crafting, little machinery and equipment that could refine minerals or decode certain things. But another thing that I just remembered that I loved from the first time I played it was that there are various alien races and they all have different languages, and you start knowing none of them. So every time you meet a new alien, you can request to learn one word from them in their dialect. And kind of like the Final Fantasy X Al-Bhed dictionary, where you learn one letter at a time, it like fills in that one word you know, and sometimes it's a preposition, and it's like, okay, cool, well, I still don't know anything. But like, I think I've got like,
that's cool though.
Yeah,
I love
it.
Yeah,
it's really
a cool approach.
Even if it is like silly video gamey, is like, I'm only going to teach you one word at a time. But
yeah. Just like it works when you learn a new language.
It's exactly right. Just one word a day. Come on. Let's not go crazy.
Yeah. So I'm having fun. I'm, not doing a whole like bunch of stuff. I've done some space combat, and like, I've repaired my ship enough to the point where I can jump between galaxies, and it's just, I think it's very much in the self-directed play that I really enjoy, and like some open world games where it's like you're finding your own fun, and like if you feel overwhelmed by like an infinite amount of choices ahead of you, like I don't think this game is gonna be good for you, because you kind of have to like say, it was like, all right, well, I'm just going to fly around, and once something like piques my interest, or, I'll do one quest. And if I see like anything on the way to doing that one quest that, again, like draws my attention, like that's what I'm going to follow for like the rest of this game session. And like, I don't know, I'm having a good time with it.
That's Breath of the Wild.
Speaking my language. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Randall, because I was like, that's exactly, I almost wish like I didn't have to worry about beating a game or like making progress in Breath of the Wild, because all I really wanted to do was climb up to the tallest vantage point around, and then look for something that's seemed interesting, and then let me just paraglide on down over there, whether it be a shrine, whether it be a suspicious looking nook or cranny in the
set of weird
rock
enemies.
Formation.
Yep.
Yeah, just anything. And that's like all I want to do. So it's like, strip that all away and just give me that out in outer space. And that does sound very interesting.
You do that for like a stretch of like 10 by 10 land, and you could theoretically just walk and continue doing that over the entire planet, or you could just like space jump to the next planet. And like it's an interesting way of like kind of removing that like cohesiveness of like the like planned level of like a Breath of the Wild, and like removing it is like, all right, well, here's a giant planet that would take you literal days to walk from one end to the other. So it does make it a lot more, it incentivizes you to just hop into your spaceship and jet off.
And it's random
like
generation.
100%ing this level. Yeah.
It's random generation, like in each play session too, right? Am I right about that to some degree?
I have no idea. That is a good question.
I think it's like
every
the best of my
file.
knowledge.
Okay.
I thought the entire, though, like the universe itself is like procedurally generated but shared amongst everyone, because you can like play online with people and like meet up and stuff.
I guess that's fair. But
I could be wrong. I mean, it could be something like, again, might work totally different, but in like Dark Souls, you can like jump in and out of other people's games, but it's the same game world, I guess. But
right.
You definitely can squad up with other people, but yeah, I have not done that, and I don't know the specifics of it.
Procedural generation. Okay. Yeah.
That seems very fun though.
Yeah, it does.
Like it seems like a great game that if you did have like a squad night where like, hey, every week we get together, or every month we get together and play, like this seems like a great game for that. To just, hey, what do you guys feel like getting up to today? I've never gotten into, because I know the game, like it is like a little bit of like a third person shooter, and there's like some actiony stuff a little bit. I played the tiny bit I played of it. I never got into anything like that. Like I literally was only running around with like, mining the minerals and stuff, like you said, which is literally couldn't be more boring gameplay. You're literally just standing there with like a laser beam holding down a button and just zapping a rock until it turns into something that you collect, but it does get it. There's some kind of feedback loop that just feels satisfying doing that for whatever reason.
But it is
I just remember, I know when I talk
Minecraft loop of the like get more materials to craft better items, use those better items to get more materials, and then just do that forever.
Yeah, I do remember when I talked about this game on the podcast way back in the day. I like with that procedural generation, like they just kind of like when the game starts and you play for the first time, you just get like kind of like plopped onto one of the many procedurally generated planets, and I happened to be spawned on one where like there was like low oxygen and like high levels of heat, so like right off the bat I was in this like survival mode gameplay, and like to the best of my knowledge that's not the way it starts every time.
Right,
it just depends on what planet you land on, and it was just like holy shit, this is hard as hell. And maybe I'm misspeaking, maybe that is the way it starts every time. Because it does seem like they'd maybe want to teach you those gameplay methods or whatever, but
it might be a different toxic habitat, because I think my first one was a cold one, and then like I went to another planet and it was like poison, and then I was like, oh well, I did not prepare for poison, so let's get off of this one. Like,
right, okay. That's interesting, though. I like the idea of like it, throwing you maybe a different, like a similar challenge, but just a slightly different angle,
right?
Based on the procedural generation. That's cool. Or you might maybe just get lucky and like, oh, I landed on a safe planet to start with, and then 2 or 3 planets later, you're like, fuck, I didn't realize, having low levels of oxygen was going to be a thing in this game.
Heck yeah.
Or obviously oxygen, maybe obviously in outer space. You probably realized that was going to be a thing. But,
limited supply.
I could have picked a better example, but nonetheless, yeah. You got me curious because especially now that because I bought that game on PS4, I believe, so I obviously have access to it on PS5.
Yeah,
which is sweet.
And I'd be curious to fire that up and
especially
see what it's all about.
That would be interesting to see what that even just like looks like, because I think it also the art direction is really cool.
It's really cool, especially considering like even the creatures and whatnot and all that stuff. Like, is a lot of that is procedurally generated, like the art itself, so
yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Very
like, the way they were able to kind of guide
like
that.
In that, like
yes, the creatures. Oh my god,
like
that's such a
you
great
have
comparison.
a very set parameter or like limited pool that everything is built from, but that does keep a coherent like look and aesthetic for everything. But it also means that everything does kind of look pretty similar.
Yeah. There's a PS1 JRPG called Jade Cocoon that I just watched a video on recently, and it's like kind of a Pokemon-esque game, but then the gimmick of the game is like you like hybrid and like merge your creatures together, and it works very similarly. Like it's just like taking like the legs from this one and the wings from this one, and just hodgepodging them together. It's pretty funny. But it looked like a cool game, to be honest.
Does look kind of cool.
Yeah. It's getting almost like a little bit of like Panzer Dragoon Saga vibes from like the world exploration and stuff like that.
I'm just anticipating this Superstation 1 delivering to me at some point randomly so I can start playing some PlayStation games.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Some weird PlayStation games that I've never heard of like this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that library is out of control.
Yes.
Yes. As are the price tags on many of those games.
Naturally.
But I don't know, any more thoughts on No Man's Sky here, John, before we move things along here?
Not this week.
Okay, nice. You got me. I'm definitely going to reinstall that, especially because I uninstalled it on my PS4 to just like kind of make room.
Yeah.
But now that I've got a little more space on this PS5, I should have plenty of room to put that back on there.
Heck yeah.
So consider it done. I'm going to do it right after we finish the session here.
Nice.
But Randall, why don't we kick it over to you here for just a totally different end of the spectrum?
I wonder how many megabytes this game takes up. What's the size? What's how many megabytes for Super Off-Road? I'm gonna actually look that up. In the meantime,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm playing Super Off-Road, the I guess you'd call it a like truck racing game. Super popular in arcades, notable in arcades for having 3 wheels basically on the front of like a stand-up arcade machine with pedals at the bottom for each player, effectively. Oh, it looks like, wow. All right. So the Super Nintendo game looks like like about 232 kilobytes. So that's
wow.
that's pretty good.
Yes,
that's pretty. That's fun.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, probably like smaller than the size of like any texture in No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
certainly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is not hyperbole.
Fucking hilarious. Like a whole ROM fits into like
yeah, this texture is the ROM of Super Off-Road.
How many hours of blood, sweat, and tears were poured over this game just to squeeze it into 215 kilobytes?
Oh, that's incredible. The thing too, right? It's like you better so you can save on costs when you're manufacturing the cartridges.
Get the cheaper version of the cartridge.
The publisher's not going to hear it, but Super Off-Road, yep. So the arcade version I was talking about with the 3 wheels, and it's always like really, you notice it right away, not only for the 3 wheels, but there's like a different color for each section where those wheels are. It's like red, yellow, and blue, if I'm remembering correctly. And I remember playing it in the arcade once in a while. It was always one of like, oh, hell yeah, they got Super Off-Road. And it's like top-down racing, which is like the other really cool, unique feature is like you're seeing the whole track at the same time. It's like a single screen track top-down that way. And so like that just gives itself some sort of like gameplay advantage built in where, you can take the whole thing in at once. You're seeing there's 4 racers, but you're seeing where they are at any given point in time. And, if I use a boost here or whatever, I better be careful because I see one of the other racers a little further up ahead on this like straightaway, and I don't want to ram right into the back of them and lose all my speed. But yes, they put this on a lot of platforms. I'm playing the Super Nintendo one just because, Kevin, I think we were talking about Super Off-Road just in passing, like maybe a handful of months ago, and like, you know what, I should just get a version of that game for consoles. I didn't own it growing up, and then like one appeared for pretty cheap on price charting, and I had like the manual and stuff. I'm like, that's sweet. Like that's a pretty common game, but like one that I always enjoy. And again, common theme, but life is so crazy that like just simple pick up and play sort of game stuff is just what I need in my life right now. Yeah. I know we all feel that in this moment. A very common theme. So for me, it often manifests with this retro stuff, if it's not NBA stuff. Yeah. But the Super Nintendo one is also specific for having like Toyota branding all over the place and on the trucks and stuff like that, which is kind of random. Okay. And yeah, it's very simple. You're just controlling the truck with the D-pad when you can start racing, and you have an acceleration button. You're just holding gas down the whole time. And otherwise you have set amounts of nitro boosts that you can use to give you a little bit of a speed boost. You can also pick up nitro boosts or like bags of cash on the level itself by like kind of just driving over them on the track as they appear. Granted, the CPU can also grab them. So, you have to kind of time it right that way. And typically you're doing like 5 or 6 laps around one of these kind of, single screen tracks. Often they'll kind of loop or kind of cross over each other. We were also talking about a different Hot Wheels game, but it evokes that almost a little bit in the kind of like track crossover. You might hit the other car sort of thing going on these tracks, which is kind of a fun element that way too. But there's actually, I didn't realize there's only 8 tracks ultimately on this Super Nintendo version. Okay. Granted, they do like the whole... and this happened a lot in retro racers, like mirror mode effectively of the tracks, and they'll throw those at you. But in this case, it does kind of give it kind of a different texture when you do reverse it that way, I'll say. So it, it works there. And, I come from, a Nintendo 64 where the slim pickings were there. Like the game Multi-Racing Championship had 3 tracks, and then you get the mirror mode of that. So to get 8 is just a bounty. Comparatively.
Yeah, we're spoiled rotten these days with like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like, have your pick. I mean, if you have the DLC and stuff, it's like, have your pick from 96 tracks.
Literally.
Like, this is crazy.
God. Yes.
Like,
it's
just
nuts. Put it on random and let it choose tracks for you, and you'll just like hopefully not play the same thing for a while, several play sessions, right?
Yeah.
But then The other piece of this too is there is kind of a carryover element where between the races you can up your stats as you're collecting that money in particular. And you get more money for winning the race or coming in second or third is like a little bit less, and fourth I don't know that gets any, but it's not so hard. It's ultimately once you get a hang of like how the controls work, and they feel great. It's super responsive in kind of that I don't know, like a Micro Machines or something like that type of style too. It's just like the controls feel really good in controlling these trucks.
And it's essentially like that tank style control, right? Like kind of Lonely Mountains downhill, like you're using left and right to steer left and right no matter what way your car is facing. Yeah.
Yes, and it feels so responsive and so good in this game, just like immediately. So once you have that down, it kind of becomes a cakewalk. And especially so once you go to that speed shop between levels and you're upping your stats, which you can upgrade things like, suspension and tires and stuff like that. But primarily you can also upgrade top speed, acceleration. Nice. And once you've got top speed and acceleration a little bit, there's just like, you're practically going as fast as the other cars go with your like their nitro boost with your just like regular holding down the gas, so it's like, you start just like lapping them, and then it becomes more of a race against yourself to get like a top, time for that given race more than anything else. But it's fun, granted, like the actual mode of this doesn't come without its flaws. There's kind of limited soundtrack, but I guess that's to be expected when we're talking about kilobytes here in the first place. And a little repetitive that way, but not bad ultimately. And then they say there's 99 races, and they just kind of throw these tracks at you in random order, and besides the mirror mode to like keep replaying them, but you can't really tell how many of those races you're into in one session. So, it just kind of becomes, all right, I've had enough of this after a point, and, I just kind of turn it off because I've had my fill, and I'm, I think at most I probably played like 30 levels, 30 tracks in a row, and that was kind of a lot.
That's still a lot. Yeah.
Even though you can, as you get to top speed, you're doing it in like literally like 30 seconds a lot of times, but still, I ultimately will say, though, like this Sega Genesis version apparently has 4-player capability along with a lot more tracks. Maybe not as good of visuals, but now I'm like, I kind of want to get that version just so I can see maybe it might
run a little smoother and like faster. Yeah.
I will say the Super Nintendo one runs perfectly well. It's pretty good time. It's just, it has those kind of variation, not a lot of variety necessarily. In that package, but I'm happy to have it for what it is, even if it's only 2-player and limited in those ways. Just a fun little diversion.
Nice. Yeah. Do you think it loses any of its luster playing it on a D-pad? Because one of the things that I loved is like, a lot of like modern racing games, or even like a modern like at-home racing wheel is going to have like that force feedback and kind of feel like a real steering wheel.
Oh yeah.
Where this was like literally like you could just spin this thing around.
Yeah,
like it was
you could.
I just remember like whipping that thing around, and it had had to like kind of to make a sharp turn to do a 180. I mean, you basically had to spin this thing like you were trying to like turn a sailboat.
That's
like
a good call.
Spinning this thing around, and like on the D-pad, I'm assuming you're just doing like little tap. Micro movements to steer the thing, and maybe holding it down for just a fraction of a second to do a U-turn.
To do a sharp
instead
turn.
of just being like, whoosh, and just spinning that wheel.
You could really spin that wheel in the arcade too. You could get that thing really flying.
Doing that. And you had to do those sharp turns. Like I loved it. And then you'd have to auto correct it because you'd always end up overturning. Like that was half the fun of that game, just like battling against the unwieldiness of like how loose that wheel was.
Yes, that is definitely true. And that is a core memory that way for me too with the arcade version. That's so funny. And I will say too, that reminds me that I do like the D-pad controls, and like holding it for a little bit longer does give you a pretty sharp turn, and to that end, it's pretty easy to accidentally turn yourself around to go the wrong way, especially as some of these tracks are like overlapping in directions. You're like, oh shit, which way was like the part of this like lap that I'm on this track, now that I've kind of spun myself around trying to grab this thing, or I rammed into this guy or hit a bale that was in the middle of the level, which there aren't that many obstructions, but there are like, you know, little water traps and ramps, but you know, it doesn't get too much more complicated than that. But yeah, it's worth it. Check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look up grabbing one of those retro copies on like a home console version, because I've always loved the arcade version of that game. Yeah. And kind of like I was saying, like presumed like, okay, it's going to be not quite the same, not playing it with the wheel. But
yeah.
On the other hand, like sometimes with those arcade games, like I don't like when there's that progression of like, oh, I got to beat the race and then buy some upgrades. Like I'm just going to pump a couple quarters into this and be on my way.
Right.
You know, where like that seems like it lends itself a little better to the home version.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely so, yes. Even, you know, and maybe a little bit even more for just like a single player experience that way, as opposed to multiplayer. Yeah. You just want to get into the next race with whoever you're playing with.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It's not expensive, I'll say. For a retro game, it was not much money to get a copy of. So it has that going for it. So
yeah, it's always fun to track one of those down too, and like or have that on your radar and be like, oh, this is just like a cheap one I can just probably find a nice clean copy of at any retro store if I, or you know, get it online or whatever.
Exactly. Yes.
So you said you got it from Price Charting. Was it like an eBay listing that you just saw on Price Charting?
No,
or did you?
They have their own. They have their own store as well, where people list things.
I never
just
realized
like eBay.
That.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh dang! I'm gonna have to peruse that a little more then, because I have not given that any look.
I feel like a lot of collectors end up.
I would much rather
there.
buy something from there than than from eBay and just like roll the dice.
Especially games that like I really want this game, and because I'm a sicko, I want it in relatively good condition for the ones I am going to pay more for. I typically target Price Charting if I can.
I'm going to trust someone on there that is going to be like respectful about how they're describing the game. You know, I'm not going to be like surprised and be like, oh, here's my Minish Cap Smash box that was sent in an envelope.
No, they're not going to. Right, exactly. No, it's more of like a collection to collection transfer type of feel to it.
Exactly.
I would say. Yeah,
exactly. I love that. I'm gonna have to look at it. That. Might be dangerous that you just opened.
It's very dangerous. There was a time where I was opening that like daily. They're like, "What's new on there?" It becomes problematic. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if you're good to wrap it up there on the Super Off-Road, Randall, I'll kind of close this out here for the evening. And I guess just to give a quick shout out to, I mentioned that I might bring this up. They just randomly added a new update to Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which I don't think we really talked about this much on the podcast, if at all.
I don't think so.
But if we did and like save it for the cast or even just amongst ourselves talking about it, it was definitely one of those games where, I did buy it kind of around the time it came out. I think I got it for like a little, not even on sale, but it was like a little bit cheaper than the normal price on Amazon or whatever. So I was like, I'm just going to pull the trigger. But it was one of those games where it's like they really didn't add like anything to this game. Like they didn't add Funky Kong. They didn't add... It seems like it's just like the same game. Yeah, they HD-ified it and whatever, but
they have the 3DS
charging $60.
Extras or whatever. Like,
that's right. They did have the 3DS extra levels. Yeah, you're right.
It wasn't like a ton of stuff.
It's all stuff that's been released before, and it's like you're charging $60 for a game that was released at $50. Like I know inflation, whatever. But anyways, it just felt like a total cash grab, even though I grabbed the game anyways, because I really do love that game.
Oh, yeah.
But then, out of nowhere, they just randomly announced, like, hey, we're adding in, like, Dixie Kong into the game. And also, I think they added a couple new modes and some different things along those lines. I think there's, like, a Switch 2, like, free update that kind of, like, reses the resolution and stuff like that. And I played a little bit of that just through the first world, and I was kind of thinking like that's interesting because they added Dixie in, and obviously she gives you like this extra elevation. It doesn't work like it does in the original Donkey Kong Country 2 or 3 for that matter. Like she does the same kind of like hair twirl, but in this game if you hold it down it almost works a little bit more like Yoshi's jump, even more exaggerated, where you get like a little extra height from the jump. So like you hold down the jump button and like Dixie will be like, if you're playing single player anyways, is like attached, like riding on Donkey Kong's shoulder, and then you'll get a little extra height to your jump. Whereas opposed to Diddy Kong, he's got like this little jetpack that lets you kind of hover more like you would with Dixie Kong and like the old games. And I was thinking like, okay, that's interesting. Like I was super pumped that they added this, but I'm like, well, they clearly didn't design these levels with that mechanic in mind. So how's that going to feel? But I got to say, playing through the first world, I guess it made it like a little bit easier, but it felt great. Like I just ripped through the first world. I even actually beat like after getting Kong on every stage in a world, you like unlock a temple special level that is brutally hard. Even the first one is like really, really tough. I struggled with it when I played it when I first picked up the HD remake or whatever. But playing it this time, it's one of those levels where like there are no DK barrels on the stage. But if you start the stage with Diddy or Dixie, you get to keep them up until you lose them. And I was able to just beat that stage on my first try, mostly because I had Dixie to do that little like hover for a little extra height and just kind of reposition my jump so I can bounce off the enemies with like perfect timing, which that game definitely requires, especially on those levels. But nonetheless, I kind of wanted to just give it a shout out because I feel like, especially me lately, I've been just kind of like ragging on Nintendo and even the games and like the big time series that I love. And even John, I know you're talking about Metroid Prime 4 too. Like, I feel like they've been on a little bit of they've been in very far from my good graces lately, you know, and this is not that it's like winning me over by any means, but I'm like, hey, they didn't have to do this. And it probably, if they were going to do it, it probably should have been in there from the first place when they released this remake. But
the Switch version,
nonetheless, yeah, like I don't know what prompted them to do this. I can't imagine it's going to like spark more sales for the game. Or
I mean, I'm
like
probably going to grab it now for what it was worth. Like people like me, I guess.
Okay.
Like that's a big enhancement, and I'm wondering too.
Yeah.
It's probably been a long time, but does Dixie then feel like Dixie did in Tropical Freeze in that case?
Yeah, it's like the exact mechanics of that.
Yeah.
Exact mechanics of that. So I'm sure they just were able to like port some of the code over and this and that.
Yeah.
You know, easier said than done, of course, but
yeah.
It's just very cool. Very, very cool to see them add that in there. It just seems like it's totally out of nowhere. And again, like, where are they promoting this? Because like the only reason I got the notification about it is because I have the game and like on the news channel, it's like, oh, you own this game, so we're gonna put it in your little Switch news feed that they had this update. So like, it's not like they're having a commercial that's like, hey, now if you buy this game, you get this added feature, you know?
Right.
So how many people are really going to get swayed by this?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it would have been nice too for them to add Funky Kong to like, because at first I was like, oh, nice, I can maybe play this one with my nephew now because he can kind of manage Tropical Freeze. But without Tropical Kong, without Funky Kong, it's really difficult to manage some of the difficulty in that game because it is brutal.
Oh yeah,
in a good way, but it gets brutal for sure. But yeah, speaking of brutal, I guess maybe that's a little bit of a harsh statement, but you know, I talked about Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario 3D Land on the podcast recently on the 3DS. I think when Randall and I had the session, just the two of us, I talked about playing through like the main campaign of that game. And I did like complete all the stages, get the top of the flagpole on each stage, and then all 3 coins on each stage. And then since then, I've played through the entirety of the special, you know, the whole second campaign. That said, I have not gotten every single coin. I would say at least 75, 80%, maybe even more than that. But I haven't gotten all of them yet, and definitely not the top of the flagpole on every stage or anything like that. But yeah, just am continuing to have an amazing time with this game. I don't know even for sure if I'll go and polish off every last coin because I have played all the stages at this point. And it does, I will say it would almost work better, I think, if they somehow found a way to stitch some of these second campaign levels like interspersed, almost kind of like I mentioned with Donkey Kong Country Returns, like get Kong on all the levels on this world and then it unlocks like a extra challenge world or like a B-side in Celeste or something like that. Like, whereas like it does feel like a little bit of a gauntlet at the end of the game. Not that it's overly challenging, but it's just like there were like a couple stages in a row, or like there, for example, there's a lot of stages in the second campaign that are there are any 3 of these things. So there's either the stages where right when you start, you have like the shadow version of Mario that like mimics your every move just a little bit behind you.
Oh, yeah.
That's like following you around. So you always you basically can't like backtrack at any point in time because that Mario is going to be like right on your tail. And then they also have levels that immediately start with like the and you only have like 30 seconds. And then there's like, little clocks. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's little like clocks interspersed throughout the levels to like increase the timer. Or in some cases, they'll have you start the stage and land on an enemy, and it'll show you that, hey, when you kill this enemy, you get 10 extra seconds. So you realize, oh, every enemy I kill, I'm getting extra time on this stage. So I really love that. I guess I just wish they were like spread out a little more, because or the third thing would be a combination of both of those. It's just a short level and you have that Shadow Mario chasing you. And I love those. I actually like love them a lot, but so much to where I was like, man, I wish these were like stitched in throughout the campaign itself a little bit more. Yeah. So that they were like a little more of like an interesting flavor, like kind of like totally different, because it shifts gears even more so than this. But like, how the Captain Toad levels in Super Mario 3D World, it's like, oh, here's just like a total diversion from the gameplay you're, expecting from the rest of the game.
Right.
I almost wish it was like presented a little more that way. Now this is just super small nitpick. Because the level design here is just top notch. Pardon me. And at the end, it really just gets into some territory that you don't see very often from Mario games. Like it really, like one of the things that kind of stood out to me is like at the very end of the stage. Like some of those levels, it's been in other Mario games, at least in 3D World and possibly in Odyssey as well, where like every time you jump, it's like flipping those panels from red to blue. Yeah. And they're like swinging. So like only the blue ones are exposed. And then when you jump, all the blue ones will like kind of swing from underneath. And it's not just an instantaneous when you jump. It's kind of like on a timer, this like seesaw thing. And they had like this one stage where at the very end, just to get to the flagpole at the end, not to get to the top, but just to get to it, period, you had to be like running on a dead sprint with that Shadow Mario chasing behind you, and then timing your jumps to like land on the red one and then jump over this gap, and then hopefully jump high enough and long enough so that the blue will have swung, down from underneath and be there for you to land on. And you had to do like 4 or 5 of those jumps in a row. I was like, holy shit, man. And there's no checkpoints. So like on that second campaign, there's very few checkpoints, like only on a handful of the longer levels, they'll throw a checkpoint in the middle of the stage. But other than that, and especially if you're going for the coins, they don't save those like they do in some of the other games where it's like, okay, even if you died, but you got the coin, you get to keep it. In this game, no, you got to beat the level or at least get to the checkpoint, or else it's not going to save that you grab that coin.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it can get a little bit frustrating in that regard, which is why I just kind of resigned myself to just be, I'll get the coins I can get, and I'll save them there for if I feel compelled to go back to this game again for whatever reason, which I will because I love this game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I still stand by it's definitely among my favorite 3D Mario games, or just Mario games in general.
Totally agree.
It 100% feels like a sequel to Super Mario 3. And it's just amazing. They really lean into the Tanuki suit in this game. Like that's kind of the main power up, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, especially that whole second set of levels. I just remember like that's when the game was like, oh my God, this game is totally brilliant.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
That difficulty. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah, and it had been a while since we got that kind of a challenge from a Mario game, so maybe even ever, because Mario games really aren't all that tough unless you're going for all the secrets, which I guess in this case that would be that, but it felt a little more baked into the experience as opposed to like, oh, I got to go for all 96 exits to make this game a little more challenging, or choose to not hit all the switch palaces or whatever.
Yeah, but the length of all the levels are just so spot on. Like none of the levels feel over long. Like they feel like the right amount of challenge for that length. Like those are such good, well-designed levels.
Yeah, it's just a pitch perfect game. There's not a single flaw that I would level at it, other than I guess the slight gripe that I was like, I wish the levels were ordered in a slightly different way. Like that's my only complaint, which is not even a real complaint. It's an incredible game and truly a reason to own a 3DS. Like especially if they never end up bringing this game to another platform or porting it in some way, it is truly a reason to own that platform. Not that there aren't many others there's tons of cool games on the 3DS, but that is like a legitimate system seller.
It really is.
Without question. To the point where like I bought one on a whim on a Black Friday when I was with Randall. Like it had been out for a while, the 3DS, and I was like, I'm not going to get one right away. And I just happened to be there and they had a bundle. And I was like, how am I about to be here? How am I about to not have this new Nintendo system that has a new Mario game on it? And it just like something came over me where I was just like, I have to buy this today, right here, right now.
The Zelda one. Wasn't it?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think I got I did. Yeah, I got the Zelda one, and then I bought the game separate, which I don't have that Zelda 3DS anymore, which makes me very upset. But
yeah,
oh well, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said,
still got my 3DS XL.
3DSs are brutal to get these days. They have gone in price crazy in the last year. So I hope you already have one.
Yep, just got to wait for Analog to come out with one of these days, and it'll be another $750 to plug into your retro tink.
God, I would totally get one too. It would be disgusting.
I probably would too.
Yeah,
I probably would, especially if it was like GBA, all or if it was just every handheld, all the way up through 3DS, Nintendo wise. God,
honestly, just DS and 3DS in some sort of form factor, especially if I could do a TV thing with that too, somehow, some way. Yeah. That would be just enough for me.
Oh yeah.
Although you don't get the 3D effect that way, of course.
Yeah.
So.
But for most of those games, like we've talked about, you can. It's a cool feature, but you can easily live without that on most games.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Heck yeah. But I don't know anything else before we wrap things up for the evening here, guys.
No, sir.
Nothing.
Good deal. Well, yeah, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com and just about anywhere else. Just look up Pursuing Pixels and otherwise, until next week, we'll catch you then and take care and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Sometimes you're at like the very top of like a ledge and like I think I need to jump down, but is there actually ground down there? And like somehow just pivoting the camera would let you see a little lower, and just I think there is a bridge there. Okay, I'm gonna jump that way. And then again, in most cases, you have the Tanuki suit, so like I'm just gonna hold it down and flutter my way down here until I land.
Get those legs kicking.